Hello and welcome to my lesson plan. I will be using Kaggle, Podbean, and Nearpod as my three digital tools for this lesson. I teach AP US History, and the lesson focus or the content focus is going to be on the civil rights movements from 1945 to about the 1980s. So to start off, we are going to have students work on an introduction Nearpod about the civil rights movements, both nonviolent protests as well as key events during the civil rights movement, kind of build up their prior knowledge or build up that knowledge of this so that they can create either a podcast or a mind map. So this is what you see in front of you. This is the beginning of the Nearpod. This is student-paced. Students will go through this, kind of talk about what they're going to be learning, demonstrating what they're learning, and so on. So they will be asked, kind of what do you know about the civil rights movement before we begin? I'm talking or looking at unjust laws, both current or past examples of unjust laws in the United States. And as they go through this, they will answer questions, they will watch videos, they will kind of dive in to the civil rights movements. And then after they do this, this would be like the first day of their assignment or of the tasks that is in front of them. This should take the majority of the first day. And then kind of the last little bit of class, we will go over what the expectations are for the mind map or doing the podcast. They're only required to do one of those, not both. And they get to decide which ones they want to do. So switching over to kind of what these assignments are, first looking at the mind map. These are the directions that I have given to my students about what they're going to do, some of the criteria for their mind map. They have to create 4 branches of it. These are the 4 branches that they have. Here's some examples of kind of what a mind map is, what it should look like, very interactive, very colorful, does include images as well. And then on the next page are things that they need to include, kind of to help them as a starting point. This is definitely something that students struggle with. Where do I begin? There's just so much information. So this is kind of to help streamline that. So they have to pick various amounts of topics from each one of these. Still have to do their research on it because they do need to include that in their mind map as part of the expectation. They do a peer evaluation. Really, the goal is to have at least each student do 1 mind map and 1 podcast evaluation and give the ABC feedback that I modeled after what we have done in our digital tools course. And then they also do a self-evaluation about what they learned, what they liked, what they didn't like, how could they improve it, and so on. And then, of course, we have a mind map rubric on how they will be graded. So going back to the Kaggle, so I did demonstrate already to them, that's why you see these. So I'll just go ahead and click on one that I've already created. So the 4 branches that they have to do, I showed them how you can include different branches, how to edit, where to type. You can even add images if you want to. And so on. I did include that they have to have at least 1 image per branch, so 4 images total. That was the minimum requirement for that one. For the podcast assignment, they have to create a 15 to 20 minute podcast on the topic of civil rights movements. The things that they need to include are listed there. I do have Podbean on here. I did also include Audacity. Really just kind of whatever you prefer. I even included some podcast examples for them and how to start a podcast, which I'll show here in a moment. Some brainstorming ideas for them, help them to get started, help them to start to get organized. the name of their podcast, logo, the host pictures, biographies. I instructed my students not to spend an absorbent amount of time on this part, but just to make it, give it a little bit more pizzazz, make it look a little bit more professional. Research topics, just to help them to decide what areas of the civil rights movement that they want to focus on. And then, of course, just like the last one, also the formulation, have an opening, have a main topic, and have a conclusion. It probably useful to also have a script as well so that it flows more smoothly and you're not saying so many times like I'm sure I am during this presentation. And of course they have a self or group reflection. I did give students the opportunity to work in with another person if they wanted to, or work by themselves on either the podcast or on the mind map, where they do evaluate each other if need be, or if they just work by themselves, they're just evaluating themselves. Peer review, same thing as before, using the ABC model, and then of course with the rubric. So going back to this screen, so how to start a podcast, went through this with students, kind of, give some tips, some advice, so that this makes it a lot easier for them to do it. Showed them on their phones, showed them on my phone, how to record the podcast, how to add sound to it. So beginning, kind of opening music and closing music. I did demonstrate or show them the one that I recorded for this class a couple weeks ago as well, and they really enjoyed that, and I'm anxious to hear what they come up with.